So we're in Maseches Beitsa, Daf Lamed Daled Amud Beis. We had a Mishnah which discussed a person had put on his roof, according to Rashi, grapes or dates, and what happens up there is they kind of decompose for a while and they eventually turn into raisins and these dried figs called grogers. And since while they're decomposing they're not edible, we would generally speaking look at them as muksa items, things that have no purpose. And therefore the Mishnah is telling us that if he wants to eat them on Shabbos, he must designate them as something which he's now looking at as food. And Rashi referred to a Gemora before on Daf Chavama base, where the Gemora there said that designating, which is called hazmana, has to be on some food item which has a chance of being good to eat, not something that's completely inedible, it won't help. So it has to be somewhere in the middle stage where it's getting more edible each day, but it's not completely edible yet, or he wouldn't need hazmana at all. But the Mishnah said if he wants to eat from it, since it's somewhat in the middle stage of a little bit edible, a little bit not inedible, he'd have to designate a certain amount of them that he wants to eat. So we have a machlokus in the Mishnah between Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim, what kind of designation you need. According to Rashi in the Mishnah, it all depends on whether you hold a breira or not. If you hold a breira like Rabbi Eliezer, you can just be very vague, whichever ones I will eat tomorrow, those are the ones I am now designating, and the later clarification helps. And according to Chachamim, they don't hold a breira, at least in this context, and therefore the general designation doesn't help. He needs to specifically point out exactly what he wants to eat. Now the Gemoras bring a Mishnah from Maseches Maisros that has a funny kind of a case where a child took and buried out in the field somewhere these figs that he wants to eat on Shabbos, and Rashi points out that the part of the HaKodesh of the Mishnah is that they are chayiv and meisers, just because he wants to eat them on Shabbos, even though normally we need fruit or vegetables to get into the house or into a barn or into some kind of a place where they're going to be stored to be chayiv and meiser. These all of a sudden become chayiv meiser because Shabbos is involved. He wants to eat them on Shabbos, that automatically makes it chayiv and meiser because Shabbos is so important. And even though it's talking about children, Rashi says their thoughts to eat it on Shabbos count as much as a gadol's thoughts, because their thoughts to want to eat it on Shabbos are together with the act of burying it for Shabbos. So therefore he put it aside. That was an act for the sake of Shabbos. That makes his machshava mature enough to affect this halacha, that if it's for the sake of Shabbos, it'll be now chayiv and meiser. So the Mishnah says they forgot to take meiser, so therefore they can't eat it on Shabbos, since Shabbos made it chayiv and meiser. Now they can't eat it till Motzi Shabbos. That's what the Mishnah said.
So this meiser, the thing that you have now is muktzah. Because the table's muktzah on Shabbos.
That's correct.
Because
the very fact that they thought to eat it on Shabbos made it chayiv and meiser, made it tevel as you're calling it, meaning that it's not been meisered, and therefore it can't be eaten, and it can't even be moved because it's really muksa.
And breira doesn't apply here, right?
Sorry?
Breira doesn't apply.
Breira would only apply if I had designated something. There was no designation here.
So if the kids are saying,
as Rashi said in the Mishnah, that the reason why our Mishnah was on Shviz was to take the question of meiser out of the picture.
Right.
But we're saying over here the meiser is in the picture. This is chayiv and meiser, so automatically you can't eat it. It's not going to help to do hazmana. Alright, so that's one thing that our Gemora brings that Mishnah from Maisros. And then for some reason our Gemora is going to bring another Mishnah. Let's continue on in the Gemora. The Tanan Nami. Shabbatai, you want to read that part, the 6th line of the Gemora?
Yeah, sure. The Tanan Nami, so we also learned in the Mishnah previously.
This also looks like it's from Maseches Maisros. The previous one was Perek Daled of Maisros Mishnah Beis, and this one's Perek Gimel Mishnah Aleph. So this is a full Perek before the one we just read.
Ma'avir Ta'anim B'chatzro, a person who moves the Ta'anim on his chatzor.
So he's moving them through the chatzor. Okay, so maybe that's part of the chiddush, that he's not bringing them into the chatzor to leave them in the chatzor, just passing them through the chatzor.
Like it's out, to dry.
Liktzot. Yeah, Rashi says that means to dry them out.
Benav u'benei beito ochmin mehem. So his sons, his children, and his household can eat from them.
Keep going. One word.
It's a snack.
Right. As Rashi said in the previous Rashi, normally, if something hasn't yet gotten to its final resting place, as it were, the barn, the house, or the chutzner, it's pater from meiser if you eat it in a chilas arai. Huh?
And they pater.
Here it's pater. Why is it pater? Because here it said it actually reached the chutzner, but how did it reach the chutzner? What's the key word here, I think? Ma'avir.
Passed.
Through.
All you're doing is passing through. So even though normally Rashi said a chutzner could be enough to make it kavua for meiser,
Well, you just walk past one.
but only if you're really bringing it there to keep it there. Just passing through, it's still as temporary as it was before. Perhaps that's part of the Chiddush. Okay, let's see the Rashi. So far we just have 2 Mishnayos from Maseches Meiser. One from Perek Daled, and now we have a Perek Gimel. Which actually is understandable why it's one Perek before the other one, because the other one, Rashi said, we already know that if it reaches the house, it's Chayiv and Meiser, and this is one of those halachas about what's called reaching the house and what's called reaching the courtyard. It seems to be saying if it's reaching the courtyard but not in a permanent way, it's still patur from meiser. Okay, let's see the Rashis. Tanan.
Amabri hatarinim.
Mm-hmm.
And passes the figs.
Mm-hmm.
Shaitach hatarinim b'chatzor. Shaitach hatarinim.
Shoteach. What is shoteach? Spreading them out. So it's a little bit different than what I thought. I thought he's just carrying them through, not even stopping in the chutzner, but it sounds like he's actually still spreading them out. I'm not sure why Rashi's saying this, but I don't know how the word ma'avir implies that, but okay. Maybe because it says the word liktzos, for the sake of liktzos. So Rashi says that word implies
The Yavsha.
that you're drying them out. So that's where he gets the spreading out thing, because how else are you going to dry them out unless you spread them out? So that's what's happening over here. Not that he's walking through necessarily like I thought and not stopping. I thought that was what Ma'avir implied. But Rashi says, what's his intention right now? To spread them out in order to dry them out. And that's another thing the previous Rashi said. Ta'anim are normally considered what? Finished product. Unless
Is you're going to dry them
You're
out?
going to do more to them, like dry them out. And that's maybe what it's saying over here. Even though they reached a courtyard, that could have made them chayiv and meiser, but if your intention at this moment is to let them go to a later stage where you want to dry them out, then again, they're still not at the point where they can be chayiv and meiser. That's maybe what's going on over here. Okay, let's finish the Rashi. Liabsham lasos mihem katzios. You want to make these dried out figs from them. This, maybe it's even the date jam thing that we're talking about.
Torah simple ago.
No, you again skipped a few words. Second time you skipped like 3 or 4 words. And after they already became katzios, after they already got dried out, then dor samba eagle, right? Then the next step is to trample them into a round container where you're going to make basically a ring of jam, a jam ring.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what your intention is. So then it says, Banav uvnei Beitsa, his children and his household, Upaturi. They're allowed to eat a snack from it and mi la'aser.
From taking meiser.
They don't have to take meiser. Why, says Rashi?
Ein chotze kavas rios panim.
Panim.
Panim. Panim. There's no chotze, it's...
No, not there is no chatzar. The ain is not going in the word chatzar. It's going kovas. Chatzar is not kovas.
Chotze is not kavas.
Chatzar can't make this into a permanent thing as the re'iyas panim, which it should be, right? We said that should normally happen when you bring it to the chatzar, that it's now considered permanent inside the house. But it can't work, Ella, only... which was implied in the previous Rashi, right? So there's a few things that have to have happened for something to be chayiv and meiser. It has to be brought into the house or into the courtyard, and that has to happen to what? Only if it is what? A finished product. Okay, so that's what Rashi is saying over here, and maybe that's part of the chiddush of this Mishnah, that even though we told you that bringing to the house makes him chayiv and meiser, but that's only if they're a finished product. Here it's not a finished product because he has intention to go further with this te'ena and dry it out and make it into jam or whatever. Therefore, at this point, it's still not a finished product. So even in the chatzar mamish itself, the children or whatever would not have to take meiser. Miboile. Miboile means what? So now Rashi's getting into the next part of the Gemora, so we should stop, keep our finger in Rashi.
So this point that Rashi's making about the Chatzar,
it's not just Rashi. Rashi's telling you that's the pshat in the Mishnah. That's the point of the Mishnah.
right? It's specific to this unfinished product, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but generally the Chatzar would make it.
Right. That's the point. Probably before this Mishnah, there was some earlier Mishnah in Meisers which said, if you bring it into a house or a courtyard, it's chayiv and meiser, but this is driving home, excuse the pun, the point that only if it's a finished product.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright, so just keep your finger on the Rashi, because for some reason Rashi's now going on to the next little thing in the Gemora, which we haven't seen yet. So far there were 2 Mishnayos. The one about Shabbos, that even if it hasn't come to the house, but if it was for Shabbos, it's chayiv and meiser. And here we have another thing about it being in the chatzar itself, but not being a finished product. It's also pater. So we have 2 Mishnayos, and then, so keep your one finger there if you don't mind, and let's go back to the Gemora. The Gemora says after that,
Boy Mina.
Boy Mine.
Rava Mirav Nachman. So Rav inquired.
Rava.
Or Rava inquired from Rabbi Nachman,
who was his Rebbe, so that makes sense. He's asking his Rebbe a Shaila.
Shabbat Mahu. There's Shabbat Mahu Kavua
Tikva,
Shetikva Muktzah.
Meiser, Davar,
Lo Shelo
Gemora Malachta.
He's asking, what is the halacha regarding Shabbos making muktzah?
No, not making muksa.
That we have to take Maisa.
To be koveya. Tikva is the key word here. We keep talking about Shabbos as koveya, right? And koveya is always the opposite of a ride, opposite of a snack. So whenever it gets to the point of being kavua, it's chayiv and meiser. So can Shabbos make something kavua? We know generally it does, right? Generally speaking, from the first Mishnah, the Mishnah about the children who hid the te'enim for Shabbos, we learn from there what? That if it's something that's for the sake of Shabbos, it's automatically kavua for chayiv and meiser.
Yeah.
So he's saying, can that work on something that's muktzah? Now, muktzah normally implies what? It's not edible, or it's not, something about it is not usable. So I assume he's talking about regular muktzah. So it's kind of like there's a factor that's helping you and a factor that's hurting you. The fact that you want it for Shabbos should make it chayiv and meiser. The fact that it's muktzah, meaning it's not really ready for Shabbos, means it's not really for Shabbos. So is this for Shabbos? Is it not for Shabbos? So he's saying, how do we look at it?
So he's talking about the things that the raisins that are drying out, which are still raw.
No, he's not directly talking about that. Maybe indirectly, but he's just asking a general question. I don't know which point he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about raisins before it became, when they were grapes that were disintegrating, that are for sure muktzah. Can Shabbos be koveya for meiser in a thing which is lo nigmar malach, has not yet finished? That's another factor he's throwing in. It's muktzah, that's one strike against it. It's also lo nigmar malach, that hasn't yet finished. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's this, when you put the te'enim or the grapes on the roof, and they are somewhat getting ready for becoming raisins and whatever, but they haven't yet become. So they're muktzah, unless he designates them. Plus they're lo nigmar malachta, they're not yet finished products. But here you have Shabbos. Will Shabbos basically win out and make them chayiv and meiser or not? Now, he's going to actually show you his idea. Right? Sometimes you just ask a question, it's open-ended. Sometimes when you ask a question, you show your 2 points of consideration, right? A question is usually based on, you could look at it this way and you could look at it the other way. That's the more full way of asking a question. Not just saying, what's the halacha, but saying, do we say one approach in which would make it chayiv, or do we say a different approach which would make it pater? That's a more developed question.
One approach, one little.
So he's going to show both approaches. Mi amrinan. Do we say,
since Kevan the Kativ
Karasa,
the Shabbat Oneg, if we say that it is written that Shabbos is Oneg?
No, you call Shabbos Oneg. Hashem called Shabbos Oneg. Karasa Shabbos Oneg. Or maybe Hashem saying we should call Shabbos Oneg. Whatever. Even so the pasuk saying we call Shabbos an Oneg. That's making the eating on Shabbos a chashuv, right? That it's this pasuk which makes the achil on Shabbos chashuv. That the pasuk is declared that you have a mitzvah of oneg, and that every achila is part of the oneg, and therefore that makes every achila chashuva. That you're makayim the pasuk of oneg Shabbos. That's what this seems to be saying. So do we say that since there's a pasuk that talks about the chashivas of oneg Shabbos, therefore, kova'a, it can make the food kavua and chayiv and meiser. Nigmara.
Because even though it's not a finished product.
Right. In other words, it will be such a strong factor. The Shabbos factor, the chashivas of Achila on Shabbos, such a strong factor because of the pasuk that it will even overcome the fact that it's not a finished product. That's his question. Oh, Dilma, or
perhaps Devar Nigmara Machoto, or even though it is a finished product?
No.
Maybe
only if something already is a finished product, then kava. Then Shabbos can be koveya. Maybe Shabbos only has a power to overcome one obstacle, let's say, but not two obstacles. When Shabbos overpowers this, it makes it chayiv meiser. Is it like a magic wand and just takes care of all problems, or is it only going to take care of specific problems? That it's only going to, if it's already a finished product, then it makes every achila chashuva. But if it's bedavar shalom nigmar malakto, if it's a food that you haven't yet finished it, so Shabbos is not going to be like a magic wand and just take something that's not finished and make it as if it's finished. It's not finished. You're not ready for it yet. That's what he's saying. Maybe it won't help for a davar shalom nigmar malakto. Maybe it's a davar shalom nigmar malakto.
Davar shalom nigmar malakto lo kavua.
Maybe there it doesn't help to make it kavua. Maybe only something that has the potential because it's a finished product, just it hasn't been brought into the house or whatever. Maybe on that kind of a thing, it would be Shabbos has the power to be koveya.
So what's the question?
What do you think the question is?
The Shabbos make an unfinished product kavua, or the Shabbos make only a finished product kavua?
That's right. Because we said there's a few problems till something becomes chayv and meiser. It has to be in the house, it has to be finished, there's a few things that normally have to kick in. But we say Shabbos overcomes those obstacles. But how much?
That's what my focus is.
No more clokas.
He's just asking the question.
He's asking his Rebbe a question, but since he's a very good Talmud, he's not just asking a question as if he doesn't know anything. He's explaining his thoughts, that there's two ways of looking at it. Therefore, he has a question. He's not sure which is the proper way to look at it.
Yeah.
The perspective of point A or the perspective of point B. That's what he's asking his Rebbe for. Which is the right perspective. Shabbos can overcome even the limitation of if it's not finished. Look at it as if it's finished. It'll give it that chashivas. Or no, it's only enough to give it the chashivas of as if you brought it into the house, but it's not going to help you if it's not a finished product.
Right, so he answers it. So Rav Nachman answers Rav. This is Amalei. Says to you, Shabbat kavua bein kova'at bein davar shehna nigmara malachto bein davar shelo nigmara malachto. So he answers back that Shabbos makes kavua both this and that, both a finished product and an unfinished product.
In other words, it can overcome even the limitation, even the obstacle of a food that hasn't been finished. So the chashivas of Shabbos is so overwhelming that it basically, it's like it says in Har Sinai, no matter what a person's sickness, he was healed.
I was told that that's why they call the hospital in America, what do they call it?
Mount Sinai Hospital?
Yeah.
Very good. I like that.
Rosh Hashanah.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so here we are.
Just going to the toilet.
I guess that.
Okay, so he just asked this question. Does it make unfinished products Chayav Ma'aser, or does it make just finished products? And he said, no, it does end it, right?
Right, it has the super duper power. So now,
So they ask another question. Amalei Be'ema Shabbat B'ma Dachatzer. I would say
I could say, to play devil's advocate as it were,
that Shabbos is like a Chatzer.
right, maybe that's all Shabbos is. It's like the permanence of a chutzah. So that's all it can do. Maybe it can only work like a chutzah. And therefore we could say the following logic, if that would be true. That ma...
It's Ina Kuvot.
Say each word a bit more slowly. And that way, instead of mispronouncing each word, you'll pronounce each word.
I'll just pronounce the second one.
Try it again.
I have this, Magnet says I have this dyslexia for Hebrew.
I understand. Well, tell your wife she's right, but we're trying to overcome that. So my hope is that if you give it one more second before each word, it's like you feel this internal pressure, so you're running along to say the word as quickly as possible. But my theory is do it the opposite. Take one extra second and give it like a mental look over before you say it.
Okay. And I'll just pronounce it.
Then I think when you mentally pronounce it to yourself before you actually pronounce it to the outside world, you'll get it right. That's my theory.
Let's see if it proves right.
Try it out. It may not work the first time. Let's try it out. Let's get into that mode.
I'm putting a cautionary note there.
Yeah.
For Amalei, the Ima Shabbat Duma Dachatze. So I could say that Shabbos is like a Chatze.
Right.
Duma Chatze. What is a Chatze?
No, not what. This now, he's saying it's like, so he's about to say the comparison. When you elucidate in a comparison, you often, in the Gemora jargon, will say ma this, af that. It's called a ma-af construction. So when you're comparing two things, the way that we say it in English is just as blah blah blah, so too blah blah blah. So ma is the just as, and the af is the so too. The word ma is a little bit like the word ki. It can have many different jobs, as it were. Not always is it the word what. Like ma tovu alat Yaakov doesn't mean what. How great are your tents, Jacob, right? So it's like sometimes it's the word what, yes, but sometimes it has nothing to do with the word what. Depends what its function is in that moment. So here it's a function to start a comparison, which we just saw that he's saying there's a comparison. So now the word ma, we are already tipped off. This is probably a ma, which is a comparative ma.
So ma chatze ina kavuat
Ko va'as.
kova'as. So
No. Just as.
So just as a chatzer.
Think of in English when you would compare something.
So just
as it's hard to find parking in the old city, so too it's hard to find parking at the hospital.
So just as a chatzer is not Eina,
Kova'as, it doesn't have the power to be koveya, to make permanent for the sake of meisering. Ella, which means it only has the power.
Davar shenikmara malchuto. Melachto. Okay, so it's unable to make chayav meisers for an object or something that is not finished, a finished product.
It's only, as we say in the more positive way, it's only able to effect, in the kovea manner of making something chashuv because it's kavua, it only has that power in a davar shenigmar malachta, something which is already a finished product, like Rashi had informed us before. So just like a chatzar only has that power, that limited power, we'll call it.
Auf Shabbat lo tikava ele b'davar shenigmar malachta.
Right.
And so too, Shabbos is unable
It's only the lo with the eina, with the ella, right? Lo with the ella or eina with the ella.
Yes, it's able to.
It's only
able to
be kovea to give permanence and chashivus
to
and
something which is finished, a finished product.
right. So
This unfinished product is not.
hmm?
You don't take this place, you can't stuff like place.
Normally. That's right. So he's saying even a chatzar, which is, we'll call it the super duper power. It's like coming home, right? Coming home makes you feel very chashuv, right? When you come home. So coming into a chatzar, coming into the house, the place where it's going to reside, that gives a chashivus, it gives us permanence. They can only work on something that's an actual finished product.
Yep.
So too says Rava, to his Rebbe, that maybe Shabbos has no more power than the Chatzar. It can only work and it can only give a certain chashivas and permanence to something that is already a finished product. Okay? Which obviously, he already asked that question. I don't know why he's repeating it, right? But he's now giving more of a reason. It's kind of like a kal v'chomer. If Chatzar only has a limited power, then Shabbos, which has a power, but who says it's more than the Chatzar? This is like the 1, 3, 2, 4 theory that we once said. Here, after the step 2, where his Rebbe answered him, step 3, he's now answering back his Rebbe in a nice way, right? He's not saying his Rebbe's wrong, but he's suggesting. By the way, that's in Hilchos Kavod for a Rebbe, that's the way you do it, obviously. He's not saying his Rebbe's wrong, he's saying, but maybe we could look at it differently, which is still not contradicting his Rebbe, but it's now showing more of his first step, which was to ask a question. It wasn't just an open-ended question, it turns out it's also because he knows that even Chatzar, which is already a very powerful element in Hilchos Meiser, only has a limited power. It can only take something that's nigmar malachta and give it a chashivus.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically he's asking his Rebbe, how do you know that Shabbos has a greater power than Chatzar? Maybe Shabbos is the same as Chatzar, can only work on something that's finished product. So he's basically challenging his Rebbe, how do you know that Shabbos is more powerful than the power of the Chatzar?
So Shabbos can make an unfinished product.
That's what his Rebbe said.
Yeah.
He's questioning that.
Well, where did his Rebbe say that?
When he asked his question, that was part of his question. Can Shabbos work even on an unfinished product? And he said, yes, it works on both.
Oh, I see.
Welcome was finished and unfinished.
That's what his Rebbe told him. But now he's questioning his Rebbe. How do you know that to be true? Even if you'll say Shabbos has the power of a Chatzar, but even Chatzar has a limited power. So maybe Shabbos also only has a limited power. How do you know that Shabbos is more powerful than even Chatzar?
Because Chatzar makes it heckish, right?
Chatzar takes something and makes it permanent. That's the point. So he's saying, I can understand that that's what Shabbos does. Shabbos takes something that's not permanent and makes it permanent. But how can it take an unfinished product and make it finished?
Yeah.
So Amar Lei, his Rebbe answered now for the second time.
Limud orech bu b'yadanu
Yadenu.
yadenu. So this is a lengthy...
No. Length would be with an olive, by the way. Aruch, meaning long, is with an olive.
Per page?
Yeah, basically, like Shulchan Aruch. It's already laid out. It's already ready. It's a limud that's aruch, that's already laid out and all ready. He's basically telling him, you're an Aretz. It's already like a laid out limud, but you don't even learn Mishnayos. Are you such an Aretz? But again, if the Talmud had covered for the Rebbe, even the Rebbe's having covered for the Talmud over here. He could just call him an Aretz and a Shegetz for forgetting a Mishnah, right? They said there was once a Balagala in the town near Vilna. They all were trying to be Talmid Chachamim, like the Vilna Gaon used to say that even a Balabais should try to be a Talmid Chacham. So Balagala was like a taxi driver. He stopped to take a rest. As another Balagala pulled up next to him. It was in Shklav. Sorry, Shklav. Shklav was a place where Vilna Gaon had a lot of influence. So one Balagala pulled up to the next one. It's like one taxi driver pulling up to the other taxi driver at a taxi stand, and he tells him a chiddush that he's been working on. Mm-hmm. That itself shows you where they were holding. And the other taxi driver right away said, you're wrong, because there's a Mishnah in whatever was Zvachim that shows that you're wrong. That also shows the level they were on. They knew the Mishnahs right away. He was able to show him he was wrong from a Mishnah.
I mean, it's very much like today in many ways, because a lot of people that hold PhDs and degrees in higher physics are driving taxis because of a lack of work.
Yeah, I hear.
Where, today?
Yeah.
In this country?
Not just this country, every country. Look at the Russians in this country. A lot of musicians came over and they're driving taxis.
So then the first one who had said this chiddush, but it turns out he was wrong because there's a Mishnah that shows that he's wrong. He was so embarrassed that he had forgotten a simple Mishnah. He got off his wagon and left it there for like a number of years. He just abandoned to go sit and learn. He went and he sat and learned for like 3 or 4 years to like try to compensate for his ignorance that he forgot a Mishnah. He was so embarrassed he forgot a Mishnah. Can you imagine? So that seems to be what he's saying to Rava here. You forgot a Mishnah. It's a limud aruchu b'yadenu. So it's already laid out.
Mm-hmm.
That what?
שהשבס קבועת בדבר שנגמרה מלכותו בדבר שלא נגמרה
Malachta. So basically telling him, like this taxi driver in Shklav, it's a Mishnah. Don't ask me big philosophical questions. It's a Mishnah. Okay? Now the truth of the matter is, right, where is it? He doesn't say where it is, but Marzutra says it. Amar Marzutra, Brei de Rav Nachman, Afana Namitin. We also learned it in the Mishnah. Now look at this Mishnah. Does this look familiar? Ba'od Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Omid Adam ala Muksa, Erev Shabbos, B'Shvis, etc. Yes. So it says in our Mishnah, something that would otherwise be muktzah, these things which are not quite finished, right? They're still in the process of becoming raisins, etc. He can stand up and what? Make them ready to eat on Shabbos, because he can say they're not muktzah, right? He can do hazmana. Time de shviz. The reason why he's going to be able to eat them on Shabbos is because it's shviz. The la bar isurehu, because shviz is not what chayiv and meiser. It's not yet 5:20.
Okay, sure.
Our Mishnah took the case of shviz, as Rashi had said, because it's not chayiv in meiser. But behold, bishar shnei shavua. Does that sound familiar? Rashi used the exact same phrase.
Yeah.
On the other years of the cycle of Shemitah, hachinami, so too. The Asr would have been Asr. Even if you did Hazmana, it would have been Asr. My taima, what's the reason? La mishum de Shabbos kova'as, right? Isn't it because of Shabbos being kovea? We'll leave it there.
You read better than I do.
Only once.